What's going on, guys? We are back today with another one-on-one interview. Quick shout out to the team over at Ambush Sports Network. Check them out for all things sports at Ambush Sports on Twitter. Joining me today, fresh off his UFC debut, fresh off being in Japan, the undefeated pride of Squamish, BC. All aboard the Cole train. It's Cole Smith. Cole, how are you?
Awesome, man. Quite the intro. Thank you very much for that.
Of course, man. So, Cole, you're somebody who, myself being from Vancouver, British Columbia, you're somebody who I've heard of in my time growing up. Through friends, through people that I know in Squamish, they said, "Hey, there's this guy, an up and coming guy out of Squamish." Just kind of talk to me. What was it like growing up in Squamish? Not exactly a huge town, and growing up in BC, being a part of mixed martial arts.
I didn't actually grow up in Squamish. I was from Vancouver originally, and then I moved up to Squamish when I was about 15 or 16. So, right in the middle of your high school career there. You know what I mean? So it's kind of tough. But at first, I hated Squamish. I thought it sucked. I didn't have my driver's license. My buddies were all from the city. I had to Greyhound down all the time. But as I got older, I got my license. Squamish became more developed, and it's just a fantastic town and one of the most beautiful in Canada. But the MMA scene has been fantastic lately. It was tough when I first kind of started off. There wasn't too many gyms. Professional MMA wasn't legalized yet, so there was really good amateurs, but the professional guys weren't. They were far and few in between. So just lately, it's been getting real good. There's a lot of top guys coming out of our side of Canada, so it's been great to see.
Yeah, and I know in the past you've talked about how maybe Western Canada and BC specifically, it might not get as much recognition or it might not get as many eyes on it in terms of professionals. Do you think that's something that's because maybe it was a little bit later in getting being able to have pro MMA there, or what do you think kind of has held Western Canada back?
Yeah, I think it's that exact reason. We didn't have professional MMA for so long, so it's kind of hard to get your career going when you have to fly all over the place and everyone's bringing you in to lose, and it just makes things real difficult. You know what I mean? So, once they legalized it and we got some top promotions having consistent professional MMA fights, you're seeing some of the top guys start excelling here, and they're getting on good win streaks. So
Yeah.
it's been great.
Yeah, and you did talk about there how there wasn't exactly the amount of guys that you were looking to train with. There wasn't a ton of pros around. Now that you said you mentioned you still are somebody who stays home. You're in Squamish. You're in the Vancouver area. Is that where the majority of your training happens? Like I know in the last few months even you've been quite busy. I know you went over to Vegas at one point. You were just in Japan cornering a teammate and a friend. So where are you able to train these days?
Yeah, I usually train. Mostly, I was training at Revolution. There's a lot of good guys over there, but lately I've been going to Checkmat a lot. That's in Richmond. There's a lot of top guys over there. Tristan Connolly. He's been doing great lately, so I'd be shocked if he doesn't make it in soon. Um, but actually, I'm going back to Vegas on the 23rd, so. I like to take advantage of all my resources. The PI over there is just fantastic, so I'd be crazy not to be over there using it as much as I can.
Yeah, and for UFC fighters, maybe give us a little look into that. How does it work for them when once they have made that UFC roster? What's the access to the PI like? Is it something that you have to be invited to go there still? Or is it something that's kind of open access to you as long as you find your way to get there?
Yeah, it's just open access as long as you find your way to get there, and then as soon as you get there, you let them know who you are. Um, they take your fingerprints down. You can beep yourself into any room. They have unbelievable strength and conditioning coaches and trainers and facility. They have the hot and cold baths with the sauna and the cryotherapy. I mean, they have everything, man. They have a great cafeteria. Everything's top notch over there. So it's easy to move over there and take advantage of all that kind of stuff.
And I'm sure when you are there, I'm sure you're not the only one there. Of course, there's obviously going to be a handful of guys that are taking advantage of it. Through that, is there anybody in the UFC specifically that you've made some good relationships with, some good friendships with, and guys that you've been able to train with?
Well, I mean, mostly Jeremy Kennedy, of course. He's the one who's brought me over there originally and kind of had me figured out and took me to all the top gyms. But I've done some good rounds with Joseph Benavidez, and he's a fantastic guy. He treated me real good. I got along with him. I got along with him pretty well. So, yeah, he's one of the top guys that I got to do some rounds with, and he was super cool about it. So.
Right on. Well, you couldn't ask for somebody better in Joseph Benavidez. Exactly, somebody who's a high level veteran of the UFC, somebody who's maintained himself in that top three, top four rankings for a long time. When you do start looking at the rankings and you do start assessing things, obviously you're just coming off of your first UFC win over Mitch Gagnon. What do you want next? I know obviously the UFC's somewhat announced that there's going to be a Vancouver card, hopefully in September, possibly in October, but it looks like September 14th. Is there things and people that maybe you're starting to look at, or is it still something where you're taking what comes your way?
If something were to open up on the Edmonton card, I wouldn't be opposed to fighting on that card, if it was a good fight and all that kind of stuff. But obviously, I would love to fight on the Vancouver card. I mean, obviously, that makes sense. I would sell that. I mean, I wouldn't sell the show out, obviously, but I would bring a lot of guys there. A lot of people from Squamish, a lot of people there would be there to support me. So, it would be crazy not to have me on that card. But yeah, whoever they kind of throw at me, I'm willing to fight. I'm ready to take one for the company and let's get it on, man. Let's just fight whoever they want to throw my way.
Right on, and exactly like you did say, you would definitely be somebody that would be able to sell a bunch of tickets. And you mentioned Tristan Connolly, and I've mentioned to you in passing before that I grew up with somebody like Jamie Siraj, somebody who you've beaten before. If there were to be a card in Vancouver, how many guys, local guys, do you think it would be that they'd be able to put on that card that would represent Western Canada well?
I mean, yeah, he for him for sure. Jamie Siraj and Tristan Connolly, and of course Arjan Buller would be one of the main guys you'd have to have on the card. And there's a lot of guys. Achilles Estremadura, he's been knocking people out every fight. So yeah, there's a lot of guys. If the UFC really looks our way, they'll see that there's a lot of good guys coming out of Western Canada that they can easily throw on the card here.
Yeah, and when the UFC has been in Vancouver before, it's been there a handful of times. Is it something? Have you ever been to a UFC event in Vancouver?
I have been. I've been to all of them actually, and they've all been fantastic.
Right
They've
on.
been yeah, they've been awesome to watch. So I got to watch Crow Cop beat Pat Barry, so that was pretty sweet.
Yeah,
I've always loved Crow Cop, so getting to watch him fight live and win was pretty sweet.
that's awesome. When you are outside of training, when you're not directly in a training camp, when you don't necessarily have a fight pressing, is staying involved in watching the UFC? Is that something that's a priority of yours? Do you make time on the weekends to watch those cards?
Yeah, of course, especially when I have guys in my division who are fighting. I mean, you got to be on top of all that kind of stuff. So of course I'm watching all the cards.
Right on. And so, what did you think of UFC 238? Was there anything that stood out to you?
I mean, Henry Cejudo is a boss. He's legit, man. That was a really tough fight, and he was looking he was having a tough time in the first round there, but he came back strong. So he was pretty tough in the clinch there. It was nice to see.
Yeah, and to hear him afterwards talk about how he did just move up from 125 to 135, and his coach was even saying by the end of the year you could see him move up to 145, and these days we are seeing so many fighters kind of bounce around in their weight classes and stuff like that. And you yourself, you're 30 years old. You've filled into your full body, as we see some of the younger guys that are able to stay in lower divisions. But you've filled into your man body, I guess you would say. And at 5'11", you are somebody who's very big for your division. Is staying there in your weight class something that you plan on continuing to do and making that cut?
Um, I mean, as of right now, I don't see why not. You know what I mean? I do make it. Of course, I have trouble making it. It is difficult, you know. Um, but that's just part of the game, you know. So as of right now, you know, I'm fine with toughing it out and just manning up and doing it.
Right on, Colin. Just a couple more here. When you look at your team, you look at your background. You've always spoken so highly of your family's involvement in it. You've spoken very highly of your brother Casey, and I'm just wondering. I know you've brought on Iridium as part of your management team, and is having your family involved and having your brother involved something that's always going to be a part of your career because it's gotten you to this point, or do you see yourself maybe? I don't want to say slowly drifting away from that because it sounds bad, but your family would obviously always be a part of it, but is going to more of a management team running things what your plan is, or do you consider having your brother with there the entire time?
Everything's been fantastic. My brother has been absolutely fantastic with everything. So yeah, no, I'm not changing anything. Iridium has been great with getting me fights. As soon as I got into the UFC, they've gotten me signed. So no, I don't see why I would ever want to change anything about that.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think you're somebody who your amateur career and your professional career prior to the UFC was something that you've consistently been on the upwards trend, and now that you've made it into the UFC, that trend hasn't stopped. You're continuing to climb upwards. So yeah, I would be on board with you not changing anything. And if you do look ahead over the next couple of months in the UFC, obviously you mentioned that UFC Edmonton card July 27th, possibly the Vancouver card. Is there anything else in the upcoming that maybe you are really looking forward to, whether it be a fight in your weight division, whether it be a fight outside of your weight division? Is there anything that you've got your eye on in the upcoming months for the UFC?
Not really. I mean, just I can't think of anything other than me competing. You know, that's the only thing I'm looking forward to. I want to fight again, so you know, on one of those cards, I'm ready to go.
Good stuff, Colin. Lastly, we'll just wrap it up here. You're somebody you grew up athletic. You grew up playing basketball, I know, and being Canadian, I know you've had to been following a little bit of the Raptors run here. Is that something that you're still able to follow and enjoy outside of martial arts?
I mean, to be honest, you know, not really. I haven't really followed too much of basketball since I've gotten into MMA. It's kind of taken the front seat here with everything. So I haven't really been following it. Of course, I've been following the Raptors. I know, you know, they just lost the other day, unfortunately. But other than that, I can't say that I've been on a fan since. So
Yeah, if exactly like you said though, if you are somebody in 2019 and you have social media, you've been seeing some of this stuff. So it's good to know that as a Canadian, you still do maybe have a little bit of a tab on supporting the Raptors, or so that's good to hear. But
yeah,
Cole,
yeah, of course you got to.
that's exactly it. Well, Cole,
Yeah.
like I said, man, thank you very much. I appreciate you taking the time. I know you're busy, so I will let you go here. But like I said, I appreciate you taking the time, and best of luck with hopefully getting onto either that Edmonton or that Vancouver fight card.
Hey, thank you very much, man.
Awesome, man. Appreciate it. That is Cole Smith, guys.